eighth wonder of the world, basically a geek show. And here are your hosts, Mike and Jack.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special issue of Basically a Geek Show. My name is Mike. With me, as always, is Jack.
What is up, everybody?
And, we've got some, we've got an interesting show, a varied show, I guess you could say. It is episode 58, and it is a very special episode because we are going to start off with two pieces of, I guess, talking points that, to maybe someone who is unenlightened or perhaps a bit narrow-minded might see as contradictory, but we don't see it that way at all here at Bags. We're just a bit more fair-minded. So why don't you start us off with the declaration of war that I did not know was made until you made it.
Well, in all fairness, you yourself said that you had already pretty much done it.
Yes, but I still kind of felt like Reagan when they didn't even bother making him up for Grenada.
Okay, when it has come to certain issues, we here at Bags alright, me and Mike, when we initially sat down, over a year ago now and said, hey, we want to do this show. And there were a few key points that him and I, set out at the beginning that we wanted to make sure that we adhered to, and we're about to wipe our ass with one of those. Kind of. One of those points was we didn't want to get too political. And that was fine for the time that we were in back then.
A simpler time.
It was a simpler time. Pepperidge Farm remembers. It was a simpler time. Since then, with this whole Gamergate stuff, and initially when we talked about this on the show, it literally was, at that moment in time, it was an argument between a boyfriend and a girlfriend that got a news website caught up in it. And it was pretty much, at least by my accounting at the time, just internet drama. Since then it has escalated considerably. We're now seeing things where video game content is under attack, self-appointed social justice warriors saying, this thing, that thing, the other thing.
You've got Anita Sarkeesian claiming Doom 4 is too violent. Bitch, have you seen Doom?
Right. And yes, Anita Sarkeesian leading the forefront of these self-appointed social justice warriors, raging, hating, railing against everything from what she perceives as sexism, misogyny, racism, violence in video games, when it's really just about they're wanting to censor. They want to censor what they don't like. And this is a battle that has been fought on many fronts over the years here in the United States. In the 1950s, it was the rock and roll. Then it was the comic books. It was the comic books, and they had this law, you couldn't do this in comic books, couldn't do that in comic books. Then it was, the rock and roll.
And the devil music.
Right, the devil music, if you play Stairway to Heaven backwards, it says, here's to my sweet Satan. Which I'm here to tell you is not true. I've fucking done it. And it just doesn't. So
it's just Robert Plant sounding like an asshole.
Right, exactly. Which is very much like Robert Plant played forwards. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. So, and now we're seeing it again once more, and it's being levied at video games. This isn't the first time. Congress has taken a look at video games and all this other shit.
Just to interject for a moment, for fuck's sake, in some of Plato's writings, he talks about how, parents in ancient Greece were thinking that the theater was going to corrupt the youth.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it never fucking changes. You always have people who...
Now they've got these newfangled books with this fucking printing press. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like whatever is the primary form of entertainment, you're going to have people who are thinking it's a corrupting influence, and it never changes.
And
that never changes. It is a constant of human history.
And, I remember being a kid in the 80s, and at that time it was the rap music.
The rap music?
The rap music.
Well,
and,
Vanilla Ice was a...
right?
Endangered everyone.
I know. Well, he still is if he's making music. But, it was Ice Cube and people saying, his lyrics were encouraging people to shoot police officers and all this and the other. I'm not a fan of rap music. I never have been, unless, I guess you could say nerd rap. But even then, if it's more like satirical than quote unquote legitimate. But, we survived that, police officers aren't lying dead in the streets. I think we dodged that bullet. But right now it's video games and the content there. And because video games are becoming a recognized art form. They're becoming a recognized legitimate medium every bit as much as television and movies and books and comic books and anything that we've ever had in the past. Video games have reached that point to where they're mainstream now, whether we like it or not. And with that comes certain burdens, and this is one of them. Now, Congress has been railing against video games off and on, as their demographics and election years permit, for years. But this is different. This is because no one takes Congress seriously.
Their approval ratings seem to indicate no one does, yeah.
Right, exactly. No one takes Congress seriously.
I think everybody at this point has just co-signed the United States Congress to "No you."
Right.
No
you. Going a little bit off the reservation, another instance, and we have this again in America from time to time, where someone will say, "Well, this book or that book is bad, should be banned from public libraries or school libraries." Tipper Gore, former presidential candidate, Al Gore's wife, came out saying, you need to ban Mark Twain because it had words in it that could be perceived as racist and all this other stuff. And, we're seeing the same thing in video games in a different way. It's the same mentality behind it. Whether it's the right or the left, everyone wants to fucking legislate or enforce morality. Mm-hmm. The only difference is what is your basis from it? Is it a religious basis? Or is it I'm a whiny fuck?
Or is it a social justice basis?
Right, and this offends me basis. And most people are beginning to kind of dismiss the religious argument of things. Even people like myself, who I do describe myself as a spiritual but not religious person, even I agree, you can't legislate morality. That's not the government's place to do that. Mm-hmm. And, when it comes to the left though, it gets to a point where it's like, oh, this offends me, that offends me, let's get rid of it. We're at a juncture where pretty much with books, movies, TV shows, it's been generally accepted for a few years now that if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Well, you mentioned, Jack, that, video games are starting to become recognizable as an art form.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can all agree that part of art is the willingness to express an opinion regarding a controversial or relevant topic, and to make a stand. We see this in literature, comic books, paintings, music, movies, television, almost anything else that we would describe as art. It's accepted that in some cases you're going to have people who want to use that art to spread a message. Except, if video games are going to become art, then we have to accept that video games are going to tackle certain issues. But one game is actually getting shit on. We mentioned Anita Sarkeesian going after Doom 4, but let's talk about the idiots going after a game called Deus Ex, specifically the upcoming game in that series called Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. Now, the developer spoke about this game, and he mentioned that one of the plot points of the story was that there is going to be a mechanical apartheid.
Okay.
That within the universe of this game, there is going to be basically people who were part cybernetic were going to be discriminated against, or basically you'd see South African style apartheid.
Right.
And he said that was going to be a plot point in this game. People lost their shit saying that it was insensitive for them to use the term apartheid, or that it was wrong for them to talk about apartheid.
Well, and see, no, it's not. I mean, it's really not. And what other term are they going to use? Segregation? An equally charged word?
Yeah, exactly. Use segregation. It's basically the same term, just in a different context. You know, if in a South African context, it's apartheid. In the American context, it's segregation. But that's the thing. You know, if games are going to be art, then we should allow them to have the freedom to tackle issues, you know, of this nature, to talk about, you know, these controversial issues. And you see social justice warriors, and the thing about social justice warrior, and why I tend to be so glib with the term, because anyone who's known me for an extended period of time knows that in many ways I have been at various points in my life, and I still consider myself in many ways today to be left-leaning in a lot of areas. And the reason why I use this term social justice warriors with such disdain is because a lot of these people, they done fucked it up.
Right.
You see someone, you know, I'm talking about, you know, traditional liberal ideals. Traditional liberal ideals should applaud someone, someone with traditional liberal ideals that are supposed to advocate for a progressive worldview. People like that should look at a game like Deus Ex: Mankind Divided and go, they're willing to talk about important issues. They're willing to talk about issues that in many ways are still relevant to the society we live in today. We should applaud them for it, not only just because, you know, in the name of freedom of speech, they should be allowed to talk about whatever they want, but also because they're taking a stand with their art form. And instead now you have so-called social justice warriors who are screaming, that's offensive. As someone who in many ways identified with some of the core principles of social justice, I look at this current trend of social justice warriors, and I'm saying, you goddamn idiots have looped yourselves.
Yeah. They have been the quote-unquote hero so long that they're becoming the villain. Mm-hmm. And now it's people that are standing against this in the name of free speech and censorship, where the conservatives have become the liberals. Mm-hmm. You know, me, myself, up until, I'd say probably the last 10 years or so, predominantly identified myself as conservative in almost every way possible. And then I just kind of started taking a look around me. And, you know, just, I guess you could say wisdom to a degree set in. And many of my conservative principles are still very much intact, but they apply to the purely economic end of things. Mm-hmm. You know, in terms of, my conservatism is best stated as, I think it's a good thing if your country is not $14 trillion in debt. I think it's, I know, I'm way out there. I'm a fucking right-wing lunatic.
Hey man, come to Canada. We got...
I think it's a good thing if your numbers match on your books.
We got a balanced budget, kind of.
And I think that, you know, and that's why I now classify myself as a libertarian. You know, I believe in the principles of privacy. I do believe in a small government that steps in when it needs to, not uninvited. When the people say, hey, we need something done about this, they come in, they do only what needs to be done, and then they let us basically live our lives. And, you know, going a little bit more off the reservation, a good example of what I consider a good use of government authority is what, you know, our Supreme Court down here did today.
Well, that was the second point I wanted to talk about, and why I started off the show just saying that, you know, some people might see this contradictory. We don't see it as such, though. Jack, I think it's fair to say that both you and I, we're both, I think, pro Gamergate.
Yes.
And we are both also pro same-sex marriage.
Yes.
So, you know, some people some people lose their minds trying to put those two together in the same worldview, but it's actually quite easy to do so, at least in our opinion. But, I know, the Gamergate stuff we just got done talking about, that's all relevant to the video game scene, and you might be asking yourselves, same-sex marriage, what is, we queued this up to listen to two idiots talk about Transformers and video games.
Which we will get to.
We will get to. We got a whole show about BotCon 2015 coming up, as well as, my first impressions of World of Warcraft Warlords Draenor patch 6.2. So I promise you, if you don't want to hear about anything political, just, skip over the next few minutes. We'll get to the good stuff. I'm justifying our talking about this now in that on our sister show, basically a sports show, we're not afraid to delve into the political or philosophical at times, and we're not afraid to, touch on current events, even if they don't kind of fall into the sports, genre that we try to aim for that show. And so I see no issue doing the same, with basically a geek show. I mean, basically a sports show. We talked about the, terrorist attacks on Canadian soil last October because we were recording a show, the night after.
Right.
And here, it is, it's either late Friday night or early Saturday morning, depending on how you want to count it. Within the past 24 hours, the Supreme Court in the United States has legalized gay marriage. I think that's a pretty big deal. So, you know what? We're going to talk about it. And if you don't want to listen to it, all the power to you. Skip ahead a couple of minutes and you'll hear us drunkenly talking about robots. And hopefully all will be right in the world. But, let's talk about this ruling. I've got a lot to say on it. But I'm gonna hold my peace for now, and I'm just gonna ask Jack, is there anything in particular? I know you said that you are generally for same-sex marriage, legalized same-sex marriage, but is there anything in particular about how things went down today that you want to touch on?
Not really. I mean, I think on one hand, it's, I want to say that it's sad that it had to come to a Supreme Court decision.
See, I don't think it does.
But
I don't think it does necessarily.
But, on the other hand though, I think it's a good thing that, this did not come down from the executive or from Congress.
That's my point.
Because this is a lot more binding. This is a lot more ironclad. Now, I'm sure come next year, God, it's going to be just messy. But at the same time, I'm glad that at least in the short term, that this to me, this is the Supreme Court doing what they need to do. This is stepping in on the really big shit, like this, and letting the legislative and the executive branch oversee what they ideally should be overseeing, which is tending to the day-to-day nuts and bolts, bread and butter matters of the country. And, some people think that's me downplaying the significance of the gay marriage. It's really not. It's just kind of how I had the division of how things should be in my mind. I think the president and the Congress, they need to be looking after things of keeping our budget balanced.
Foreign affairs.
Right, foreign affairs, defense.
Domestic issues.
Right, things like that. The day-to-day running of the country. The overarching historical shit like this, I think is best served by a Supreme Court intervention. In the sense that, like this happened, snap of a finger, boom, fucking done. What would have otherwise taken probably another...
Can you imagine if they debated this in Congress?
Right, exactly. And, the legalization of same-sex marriage, in the United States was an inevitability. It was only a question of, was it going to happen now, or was it going to happen 10, 20 years from now? I live in Kentucky, which did have a ban on same-sex marriage, but ironically, surprisingly, to me at least, today began issuing same-sex marriage licenses.
They were one of the first states to actually start issuing it after the ruling came down.
Yeah. Whereas...
And no offense, Jack, but I'm just gonna say, broadly speaking, if Kentucky starts getting on board with something, you don't want to be the one, you don't want people to say, wow, Kentucky out-progressed you.
Well, and I think that's why Alabama legalized it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're like, oh shit. We see where, this time it's not going to be us, so help us. We're not going to be that guy. Let Mississippi be that guy this time. Fuck that. Fuck that. We're not going to be that guy.
It's time for Mississippi. Well, Mississippi didn't get around to freeing the slaves until 1997, so they're already that guy.
Yeah, and Texas, well, they're really that guy. They're just kind of like, nope.
Well, the
Nope.
Attorney General of Texas is telling clerks throughout the state not to issue same-sex marriage license. Apparently, though, in a really weird case of inception secession, you have the Attorney General of Texas ignoring the Supreme Court.
Right.
But then you have the individual clerks throughout Texas
who are ignoring
the Attorney General.
Right. And I mean, it will be sorted eventually.
Well,
either
those things where like it's the law. At a certain point, they're gonna sit him down and be like, guy, come on.
Now, and the thing is, here in the States, we have to ask ourselves, anytime anything big happens, alright, is Texas going to secede over this? Mm-hmm. Because it's kind of their shtick. So, it's kind of like, and the funny thing is, I've always said if they ever did, I'd fucking join them. Not over this one. Not over this one. I can't come along with them on this particular ride because I think it's just silly. I think this is not a debate that we need to be having in the 21st century. Should in a nation who guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I mean, you want to know who beat you guys to legalize same-sex marriage? A lot of countries.
Almost everyone who matters.
But you want to know the embarrassing country that beat you to same-sex marriage?
What, North Korea?
No.
I mean, they put a man on the sun.
I think everyone's legally married to Kim Jong-un there anyway, so it's like a whole different thing.
Kinky. So it's kind of like Utah, except in black and white?
No, Mexico beat you guys to legalize same-sex marriage.
Well, okay. On one hand, I want to say holy shit, but on the other, in a nation where you can buy a politician for $50, I can really see it happening. But okay. So to kind of come back around to what we were originally saying, that in light of this overall assault on free speech in the video game industry, the fact that some people just don't seem to understand the concept of live and let live. The fact that, video game journalism, mainstream video game journalism seems to be, falling on Sarkeesian's, coattails, hook, line, and sinker.
It's absolutely embarrassing. Did you hear about the Fallout 4 rumors that were leading up to E3?
No.
Well, someone started it, not sure who, but someone started a rumor that, Fallout 4 would not have a playable female option, that you couldn't play as a female character.
Right.
And people freaked out. And it wasn't just people reacting to a rumor. You had purported journalistic gaming sites reporting this as if it were fact. And anyone who's played Fallout can tell you, going back to the first game, it's got complete character creation. Right? You can pick the race, the gender, the age of your character. It has always been that way. And, of course, it was when the Fallout 4 trailer came out at E3, they showed that, yeah, you can create your character however you want. But it was a case where the independent game journalist scene is so far up its own ass at this point.
Right.
That they just heard a rumor that fit their narrative and they ran with it. They didn't even bother to they didn't even bother to reach out and ask the developers of Fallout 4 for a comment.
And the thing is, well, let me just go ahead and finish my thought, and then I'm going to take a moment to kind of clarify for the uninitiated a bit about what this will mean going forward. So basically, it's in light of what events similar to what Mike was just saying. The fact that, our one of our treasured mediums of entertainment, a medium that has grown to be very predominant in many people's lives, is under this threat of censorship and attack from, I can't even call them far left. They're just far idiots. It's a thing that it's almost because the level of zealotry is that of a right-wing Christian fundamentalist. It's
so weird because, like I said, they've looped themselves. I mean,
right.
technically, technically the ideological base is in the progressive left, but at the same time, you know, when I was first becoming politically aware, when I was first figuring out my political identity, and I, you know, identified myself as a liberal or as a progressive, a lot of the tenets of that ideology that spoke to me were, you know, the uncompromising stance for freedom of speech, the uncompromising respect for collective and individual rights. And it was, and now I see people from, you know, the same ideological base who seem to have completely either forgotten it or it's just never occurred to them, because they're talking about censorship. Like, I mean, their level of zealotry when it comes to censorship is on par with, you know, the extreme right-wing Christian, you know, soccer mom who's terrified that her kid's reading Harry Potter.
Right, exactly. And, you know, I don't know what our contribution to this effort will bring forth, if anything, but I did declare this on Twitter a few days ago, but basically Bags now considers itself in a state of war against the social justice warriors, and we shall lash them to death, and not in a fun way.
Hashtag... I don't know. I was gonna say a line from Dr. Strangelove, but then I realized I haven't seen that movie.
Hashtag precious bodily fluids. That is a line from Dr. Strangelove. You can look it up. I meant to show that to you when you were down here, but I forgot.
Whatever. The alcohol took up a lot of time.
Anyway. It really did. It really did. Which is no surprise, probably even to our listeners.
But, you know, those are our stances. And again, I come from a position where I'm just people who call themselves social justice warriors, and I really don't even kind of like that term because I think it's the ultimate.
They're more like busybodies.
It's the ultimate perversion of a term that at one point I had a lot of affinity for.
I mean, for me, it comes much more. For me, it was always kind of a dirty word, but I don't go.
But I guess what I'll say to people like Anita Sarkeesian, and you know, we're just name dropping her because she is by far the most visible person in this group. But you know, to people in that camp, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed because you could have been so much more. You took these great principles, you took this great ideology, and then you just stuffed its head up its own ass until it couldn't breathe anymore, and now you're just waving the corpse around, and it's just sad and creepy.
Oh, Jesus. I don't know if I can follow that up. But I'll try. Here's my take on it. This is my message to these, corpse-waving creepy people. Look, I get what you're trying to do, but it's not privilege that needs to be checked. It's your own ignorance. You need to take a step back and look at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're looking to censorship expression. You're looking to censor expression. You're looking to censor how this, that, and the other thing are portrayed in a video game. If you don't like it, don't play it. Or better yet, encourage people along your own ilk to make games that do fall into the lines of what you want to see. Competition breeds a healthy marketplace. What you are fighting against is not going to go anywhere because it makes the money. Mm-hmm. You know, this demographic that you hate so much, the white male demographic, which, by the way, the Gamergate movement is not just white males. It's females, too, of every race, color, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. It's a very diverse group that's like, no, don't censor our shit. Mm-hmm. And if we're as misogynistic and bigoted as you like to think and claim that we are, take a look at those of us who are bitching that Samus isn't in the new Metroid. And I say that because that's the first thing that pops into my mind is primarily a retro gamer. But there are other examples out there. I mean, you know, take the numbers of us that today came out in open support of legalized gay marriage. Mm-hmm. You know, we are not what you are making us out to be.
I mean, for fuck's sake, I'm a gay Jew. I mean...
Jesus Christ.
I I generally identify with the Gamergate movement, and I am not what you would call the white Christian cis male hegemony by any stretch of the imagination.
Up with the patriarchy!
So, you know,
And
people are complex. People don't fit into boxes.
and that's just it, though.
Or refrigerators, if you will, Anita. People don't fit into refrigerators. I know you're fond of that one.
Unless you're Indiana Jones.
Well, yeah, he found a way. But
Life finds a way. But yeah, so, I mean, yeah, and that's just it. I mean, you're accusing us of blanket, with a blanket hating women or sexualizing women overly, whatever, or an industry of it. And is there a lot of sexualization of women, in video games? Yeah, there is. But that's in every medium. I mean, you look at a fucking magazine rack in a grocery store, for fuck's sake. Look at a cover of Cosmopolitan, which is a magazine geared towards women.
mm-hmm.
For crying out loud, almost every form of medium overly sexualizes women. And it's still there. If you don't like it, if it offends you, don't read it, don't watch it, don't play it. Start your own alternatives. And they can appeal to your demographic. And maybe if the game is good enough, we'll play it too. And we'll enjoy it, because we don't have our heads up our ass.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, if you want, sir, we can move on to the less preachy segments of the show tonight.
Alrighty. So let's actually start with World of Warcraft.
You're on a boat, motherfucker.
Because this is gonna be short. It's just come out. So this is just kind of my first thoughts on
Flipping burgers
the expansion
on a motherfucking boat.
I am happy to report that we have content.
What the fuck?
We have content. 6.2 actually brought content. It's actually kinda cool. You boot up 6.2, and then you walk into your garrison, and there's like Varian Rin at like your conference table, and you're like, holy shit, it's Varian Rin. It's just kinda cool.
Yeah.
But it's Varian's there with Khadgar, and they're there to kick off this whole Tanan jungle thing. They basically explain that in the story, the story so far is that the Iron Horde has been completely decimated because they were never really much of anything. By the time 6.2 starts, High Mall has been razed, Blackrock Foundry has been destroyed, Blackhand is dead, Grom is on the run, Nerzul's dead, Kargath's dead, everyone's dead. And so the Iron Horde has retreated into Tanan Jungle, their last bastion of power. And that's where Gul'dan, the Warlock, shows up. He finally convinces the rest of the Iron Horde to follow him because Grom has been a massive failure. Because he is. And, they all drink the Fel Kool-Aid. So now Gul'dan and the Burning Legion, those being the demonic masters that Gul'dan serves, now have control of the Iron Horde in Tanan Jungle. And we are going into Tanan to fight them. And they mentioned that the land-based entrance into Tanan is too heavily guarded, so we attack via the sea, we establish a naval base, and that leads to a couple of quests on the mainland where we establish a foothold in Tanan Jungle, and then once that foothold's set up, boom, you're in Tanan, got a new quest hub. And that's the basics of it. The boat stuff that Jack was referring to, that has to do with the fact that they added a second mission table. The first mission table, had followers. That was with the garrisons. With the shipyard, they've added a second mission table for naval missions. You can build transports, destroyers, battleships, and subs.
On a boat, motherfucker.
And you're allowed 5 ships for your fleet. Your fleet is 5 ships. As of now, I don't know if that's going to be expanded later, but as of now, it is 5 ships. And you send them on missions, and, you get, it's basically the same thing as the follower missions. You attack Iron Horde blockades, you get treasure, you get experience points, you get, other kind of, useful items. And you get named your ships. Unlike the followers, originally you were going to be able to name their followers. I guess they decided it was probably for the best that didn't happen.
So, let me ask you, because this is me and you know I'm gonna fucking ask. A, did you name your ships anything that can be repeated on the show? B, if so, what did you name them?
Okay, yes, I did name ships that could be repeated on the show. The interesting thing is that your ships have different crew. The crew is made up of a different alliance race per ship. So I liked to keep the names relevant to the race. Right now, I only have ships that are human or Worgen.
Racist.
Well, that's just
Anita, we have a racist. An in-game racist. Get Anita on the line.
I just don't like, the purple people stay in their own area, and I don't want to have to deal with them.
That is, you're bringing up sensitive subjects, sir. I am offended. So what have you named them?
Well, I wanted to keep the, I wanted to keep the names of the ships relevant to the races, so I have a human ship that I have named the Four Dragon. Cool. And then I have 2, Worgen ships. One I named, Gen's Blade.
Okay.
And the other I named the War Sprite.
War Sprite or War Spite?
War Spite, sorry.
Gotcha. Going with the British name conventions a little bit on that one?
Well, yes, because the Gilneans are based off of Victorian Britain, so it seemed appropriate.
I'm down. I'm totally down.
And so I haven't gotten the sub yet. I'm gonna assume the subs are probably gonna be gnomes because they make the subs. But I don't know. Everything else kind of seems I don't know. Maybe it is just humans and Worgens because those are the only it's randomly assigned. You don't pick those people. You don't pick the races. You just go up to the dry dock and you're like, hey, I want to build a transport ship. And then when it's done, and you click on it to activate it, it's like, hey, you added a transport ship to your fleet, and then you go to your mission table to pull it up, and it's like, this ship has a human crew, or has a Worgen crew, so it's randomly assigned, but I've only gotten human and Worgen, so I don't know if there are, I assume there would be, but I haven't gotten anyone besides those 2 yet, so.
I don't know. I don't think you'll find any dwarves, or I would assume not. The dwarves don't seem to be very much into the naval thing. I would imagine that, like you said, submarines would be primarily gnomish.
But the night elves always kind of have a naval presence. I expect to see some of them, maybe.
Maybe transports?
Nah, the one transport I have is human.
I don't know then. We'll figure it out.
Indeed. The questing in it is very interesting. You get a number of quests right off the bat in the new quest hub in Tanan Jungle, and you go and you do those, and those just kind of acclimate you with everything. There are 4 major daily quest hubs that you have to go and explore, and then doing those quests unlocks the daily quests too. Then go back day to day, and you kill and then you basically just kill enemies in those hubs, and then you fill up a meter, and then when you kill enough, and the meter reaches 100, you get a reward for the day for that quest, and that's really kind of cool because it's a great way to build up a reputation with the new reputation. I don't know what the Horde equivalent is because I've only really played this on my Alliance main as of now. But the Alliance faction is called the Prophet's Hand, and it's led by Yrel, who's kind of leading the Draenor on a crusade against the Legion and the Iron Horde in the name of Valen, who is dead because right when he was about to do things, he died.
I get to be relevant. Oh.
And so that, and so that's what that's so the Hand of the Prophet, that's the Alliance, faction. There is a Horde equivalent, I just don't know it. But these, daily quest hubs, they actually don't take all that long to complete, and, you get a decent amount of rep per quest. So it's a good way to build up rep with that faction. And you get access to, and the cool thing about it is that the faction rewards, in 6.0 through 6.1 were kind of lackluster. The new faction rewards for 6.2 are actually neat. They're blueprints for different types of ships and blueprints for ship components. So you can if you do enough quests and get your rep up high enough and you buy all these blueprints, then you can pimp your ships out pretty easily.
Pimpin'.
So, all in all, it's actually kind of have a bit of a weird take on it. On one hand, I think it's great. It's very fun. I'm enjoying 6.2 so far. But on the other hand, I'm kind of like, why couldn't the game be like this from launch till now? Why did we have to have that dud of a 6.1 patch? Like this game, and we've said it before, Jack, that in Warlords of Draenor, like when they want to do good, they've done great. They've been fantastic when they wanted to be. And you see what this expansion has been in some places, and you go, if they could have only been this consistently, this would have easily been the best expansion yet.
It's like if Michelangelo were painting the Sistine Chapel and did 1/4 of it in crayon. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how else to, we're seeing both the best and the worst that Blizzard is capable of producing. Mm-hmm. On one hand you have brilliant content, like, the actual base expansion itself for Warlords of Draenor. Then you had just the clusterfuck of half-assed mediocrity that 6.1 was because they were working on other things. And then we've got 6.2, which seems to be, very solid. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, well, look, Blizzard, I know, and I very much do appreciate that you're trying to get out the next expansion in a timely manner. I know I've ragged on you guys time and time again for not doing that, and I very much appreciate that you are trying to do this now. I get it. But at the same time, you've got to get your shit together better than this. This is not going to work. Chris
Metzen needs to stop touching his inner 6-year-old and get his head back in the fucking game.
And by the game, Mr. Metzen, Mike does not mean cocaine.
Hey, if that's what it takes. Look, man, if that's how he works, then I'm not gonna be one to
I'm not gonna question the man's method.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking enabler.
Like maybe he just needs some nose candy, and then he's like, I know how to fix it. I know how to fix all of it.
Yeah, and that's how we got Cataclysm.
I'm gonna break the world. Well.
What? What?
Okay. Not even Blizzard wanted to spend time talking about Cataclysm in their big retrospective,
yeah.
so.
Cataclysm was a thing that we did. Moving on to pandas. And now it's like, we overestimated the popularity of the Pandaren. Oh, Jesus.
All in all, I'm liking 6.2. Do you have any questions, Jack? In particular, anything that maybe I could provide some clarity on?
I really don't so far. I had thought of something earlier, but it's since been just kind of lost through the torrent of booze that's going through my brain at the moment. So I really can't think of anything that's all that pressing. I do look forward to getting to try it eventually, hopefully soon. But if not, then whatever. What I'm really most looking to now at this point from Blizzard is I'm waiting for November. I'm waiting for BlizzCon. I want to see what they think of next, what they come out with next. If the idea that they put forth, if the presentation of the idea really justifies what we've gone through with patch 6.1 and this lack of communication that we've gotten from the dev team so far. I want to see, not just the expansion announcement, but how much of the game, how finished the game looks when they present it. Because if that really is what they have been working on, as they have alluded to, they haven't outright claimed, but they alluded to the fact that they were working on the next expansion, and that's why 6.1 was mediocre. And I'm using the term loosely. But, I want to see, I expect to see a more polished product, available or being shown at BlizzCon optimally, with them saying, hey, this is what we've got, trailer, maybe even a cinematic, followed by, and it's going into closed alpha right the fuck now. Mm-hmm. With beta in, 3 months. That's what I'm looking for out of them. And that's what I want to see coming out of them next.
That would be nice. I mean, we talked about this before, that the timing, they'd have to almost launch a closed alpha with the announcement at BlizzCon if they were going to make this work in a timely manner. So we'll see. We'll see. The fact, I don't know, I'm cautiously optimistic that all of this clusterfuck with 6.1 was just them kind of adjusting to a new developmental cycle, and the kinks will be worked out by the time we hit the ground running with whatever comes after Draenor. But at this point, we can do nothing more but speculate, so let us move on to the main event of the evening.
BotCon.
BotCon 2015, coming to you from not Chicago, Illinois. Have you heard the insane saga of not Chicago BotCon?
I have not, no.
So, BotCon wanted to be in Chicago. Problem is, they booked a hotel that's actually something like 3 hours or so from the city of Chicago.
Oh, right, yeah, you did tell me about that, and they didn't have, any actual viable transportation.
They finally did, but it was something that you had to take, a train and 2 cabs to get to from the airport.
Jeez.
So, BotCon, maybe try to aim for the airport hotels next time. You can't go wrong with those. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the woeful inadequacies of BotCon's planning. We're instead going to talk about the event itself. First, right off the bat, Prowl wins the Transformers Character Hall of Fame induction, beating out both Galvatron and Optimus Primal.
Yeah, fuck you, Monkey Prime.
Indeed. I always like to see the Beast Wars crowd humbled, because they need a reminder every now and then that their favorite show isn't as good as they like to think it is.
Indeed.
So, and we got a few Beast Wars characters who unfortunately bullied their way into the hall. But since, Wheeljack's, victory over Waspinator, I think it was?
Yeah.
Waspinator. Since Wheeljack's victory over Waspinator, we seem to have been in good hands. I think Prowl got a lot of votes from his recent excellent portrayal in the IDW comic book series. I would have been fine with either him or Galvatron, but Prowl works for me. I'm kind of happy with Prowl because, to me, when I think of the maybe not stereotypical, but the prototypical Decepticon jet, I think Starscream. When I think of the prototypical Autobot car, I think Prowl. So I think Prowl is iconic.
I tended to think Jazz.
Well, they were both kind of similar. They both had the hood chest and the wings. So,
yeah, same design, yeah.
One was just a Fairlady Zed, the other was a Porsche.
Yeah.
But, they share the same design cues. But I'm happy with Prowl being in. Again, Galvatron would have been great if only for that one episode where...
Yes.
The
psychiatry planet.
He gets sent to the therapy planet.
Yes.
And, the whole thing is and it's so Galvatron, word association, what does this picture look like to you? Your doom! And he builds a gun and basket weaving class. It's amazing.
Indeed. Yeah, unlike last year's BotCon, there was so much awesome shit this year.
Yeah, so let's get into the product reveals. A lot of stuff. I'm gonna start off with the small stuff, and we're gonna work our way up.
Okay.
So we're gonna start with some Legends, reveals. I know you're not big on the Legends stuff, but, I want to start with it because, it's interesting. We've got a few repaints in here. They're repainting, the Legends Optimus Prime toy into Pipes, who was a smaller truck Autobot from G1.
Right.
Blackjack, who forms the chest plate of Combiner Wars Menasor, is being repainted into, Hot Rod. Combiner Wars, Groove, the Protectobot motorcycle, is being, repainted into, Wreck-Gar, although they did give him a new head, so we will have a proper Wreck-Gar, head sculpt. And then we've got, they're repainting Starscream into Skywarp in a move that everyone saw coming. But then we've also got some new, molds. Specifically, we've got Shockwave. We've got a, Legend Shockwave who transforms into a laser blaster to be held by a Combiner Wars, combiner. And we've got a all-new, mold, Data Disc Legends toy that transforms into Buzzsaw.
Now, is that a data disc? I mean, what the fuck is that actually? I mean...
According to the Hasbro panel, it's a data disc. It looks more to me like an MP3 player.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's really hard to tell exactly what the fuck it is, but...
It looks like a generic kind of digital MP3 player is what it looks like.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
But, data disc was what Hasbro called it, but it transforms into, Buzzsaw, one of Soundwave's, cassette tapes from the original G1.
Basically also known as not Laserbeak.
But what a lot of people have been speculating about this is that this is going to open up, to a whole new wave of the cassette, Transformers redone in this data disc kind of style. And so, I don't know, is there anything, is that something that you'd be interested in? Maybe seeing more of that down the line?
Well, actually, maybe not so much that. I mean, I'm looking at most of these figures, and for the most part, they're all actually pretty good. I mean, by Legends standards. I mean,
Legends has really gotten Legends has upped its game over the past 2 years. They went from being the crap toys to being really kind of cool little figures.
Yeah, and they seem to be, these seem to be of a markedly better quality. I would say, ironically, I know I was, venting about the Wreck-Gar earlier, but this picture of the Wreck-Gar looks a bit different to me. It looks like it's got more paint apps and shit like that.
Well, the thing you have to remember is that the other version that you saw, was in the BotCon case, and the thing that people have to keep in mind when they're looking at the BotCon cases is that in a lot of cases, the BotCon display cases aren't the finished product. These are products that aren't scheduled to come out for up to 6 months in the future. So in a lot of cases, they don't have the final figures ready, and these are just, resin prototypes, or maybe even plastic unpainted prototypes that they hand paint and glue together, more or less.
Yeah.
So, if you see something in the display case pics and you're like, oh, I really don't like the look of that, don't worry about it. Those are basically just proof of concept, products, that they put in the cases. These are the, official images that Hasbro sends to the, dealers. Not to the dealers, to the, retailers, like, Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, that sort of thing, so.
Right. And, basically for Legends class figures, I actually do like some of these. I may consider picking up Hot Rod. Shut up. I mean, I do like the design. I don't like the character, the G1 version of the character. I do like the IDW incarnation. I do like the Energon incarnation. So, I mean, we're talking 2 out of 3 Hot Rods that I do like.
I would like to see that Energon design get another pass, because the Energon toy had a lot of really good ideas, but it just kind of sucked because Energon sucked as a toy line. But I don't know. I like the design. I think they should give it another go around, kind of just like the hyper-powered semi-truck. But
So yeah, I mean, basically my verdict on these is, I don't know for sure if I'll end up getting any of them, but it is actually the first wave of Legends figures that I would consider, making a purchase with.
Alrighty, we are going to move up from, there. We've got a couple places to start, but...
Your face!
Seeing as we talked about, the Legends Hot Rod in the, vast segment, let's talk about, this is going to be Wave 4, I believe. Yes, Wave 4 of Combiner Wars, and it is, the Optimus Prime, Combiner Wave. And this one is the repaint of the Optimus Prime Combiner War torso. He's all white with a new head sculpt. And he's got,
That's racist.
He's got Autobot limbs repainted from the Stunticons. So Off-Road is repainted into Ironhide with a new head, Dragstrip into Mirage with a new head.
This is basically Autobot Minosaur.
It is Autobot Minosaur, yes. We've got Dead End into Prowl, again, new head, Breakdown into Sunstreaker, new head. So, what do you think of this? Cause when I first heard this concept, I was kind of like, pass, but I kind of want...
I fucking love it.
I don't want all of the, like, there's one I absolutely don't have any need for, but I'm gonna end up picking it up because the other four just blew me away. The Prime, let's start with the Prime. So they took the Wave 1 Combiner Wars Optimus Prime figure, they painted him primarily white, he's got some gunmetal gray and gold highlights, and he's got a new head sculpt. He doesn't have that original head sculpt, he's got a new one, which this new head sculpt combined with his new color palette makes him look Nova Prime-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very Nova Prime head sculpt, and he's got the white, the dull teal, the gold and the blackish gray. That's all very Nova Prime. And, that's the first thing that I thought. And what a strange homage, I guess. I'm not complaining because I love the Nova Prime character design. And while this isn't that exactly, it's got enough cues, specifically the new head sculpt, that make me go, okay, I'll pick that up. What are your thoughts on the new Optimus Prime?
I see it, and I don't see Optimus Prime just because all the white and gold scheme. I still really like it though. I almost think this would have been better served if they had named it something different. If this had been, I know Ultra Magnus is getting his own figure, but like an Ultra Magnus or something, I don't know.
Well,
but it works for what it is. Overall, I really do love all of this though.
I see a lot of people treating this Optimus Prime as sort of their default classics, Nova Prime in a way.
And that could work too. Basically what I'm seeing here is, you and I have been bitching for months now, about the lack of a good, like really good Autobot combiner besides Superion.
Defensor!
Shut the fuck up.
He's here to rescue the children's.
Oh yeah, well, I guess someone has to. But anyways, I mean, and this is it though. This is what we've been asking for. Admittedly, it is kind of basically a Minosaur repaint. But hey, if you're going to take something and repaint it, take the very best. And I've always loved Minosaur, and now the Autobots are basically getting their own version of that.
Now,
and I'm completely down with all of this.
Now I want to talk about limbs. Of the 4 limbs, 3 of them I'm digging. I'm digging the Ironhide, I'm digging the Prowl, and I'm digging the Sunstreaker. The one I'm not all that into is Mirage. And it's nothing against the mold. I have the mold as Dragstrip for Minosaur, and it's a good mold. It's a very good mold as far as, F1 racers go. Problem is that the Classics Mirage mold from 2006, which I still have, is so good. It's easily the best, deluxe toy from that line. It still stands up. And I'm kinda like, I don't feel like replacing him with a subpar, substitute. So, I'm probably gonna get all of these guys, save Mirage, and I'll have to find some other Autobot limb to throw on there. So that he's not missing an arm or something.
I mean, that could work too. I mean, you know, you could always throw one of the Superion guys on there, I guess.
Alpha Bravo! You've been drafted.
Lol. But I mean, you know, me personally, I like all of these. I would like to have all of these. Mm-hmm. I mean, we'll see if that actually comes to pass, but, you know, I am very much down and very much approving of all of this.
Indeed.
Just on a really quick note, because yes. You and I discussed this before we even recorded this show, to those of you who may be thinking, well, where's the, you know, Robots in Disguise guys? There really weren't any shown.
No, exactly. The robots, there was nothing new shown from Robots in Disguise. All they did was go over products that we've seen for months. Robots in Disguise, we usually say we're not going to talk about because we don't have interest in it. There is nothing at this BotCon to talk about as far as Robots in Disguise goes. So it's going to be all generations.
Yeah.
All generations. So, keeping with that, you mentioned Autobot combiners. We got obviously the what they're calling Optimus Maximus,
yes.
which is the Menacor repaint. We also got another Autobot combiner that nobody saw coming.
But wait, there's more.
We got Skylinks.
That's right, motherfuckers. We said Skylinks.
Now Skylinks, I don't think anyone was expecting a new Skylinks toy, much less one that forms a combiner torso.
He's like the Spanish Inquisition. No one expects Skylinks.
No, I was shocked. When I first saw that the reports are coming in for a Skylinks, I assumed he was going to be a leader class figure because the Combiner Wars leader class figures actually aren't part of the combiners. Like, the Combiner Wars leader class figures so far have been, Megatron and Ultra Magnus, right? Like, and they don't actually combine. But they're just part of that generation's Combiner Wars, wave, I guess. And so I thought that would be the case for Skylinks. And then no, he's a Voyager and he combines. Skylinks has never been a Voyager. He's never been a combiner torso, but he is now. It's an all new mold. It's not a remold of any of the other previous combiner torsos. So completely new mold there. The combined robot is called Skyrain, which is awesome. And when I first saw the concept, I originally
as opposed to Ground Rain.
But when I first saw Skylinks, I was not digging it. I did not like it. But the more I saw it, the more I loved it, and now I can't wait for this thing. At least the torso. The limbs, I'm not too sure about this wave of Autobot limbs. I'll get into that in a bit. But as far as the torso goes, damn, that torso is awesome because
see, I fucking love all of it. I mean, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say that the original Skylinks toy actually split into two.
Right.
It was a shuttle that transformed into this bird-like thing, and then the shuttle carrier transformed into, well, a Lynx, and then you could actually combine them and have the bird-like thing with the Lynx underbelly, and he was a very weird but memorable transformer. What they've done here is that they don't separate. The Lynx is no longer a separate mode. It's just, it's just a lower quadruped body for the bird shuttle. But the head for the Lynx from the original G1 toy is now the head for the combined Skyrain robot mode. And they've given him 4 Autobot limbs, again, kind of all repaints, to fill out Skyrain. We've got Smokescreen, who is just a repaint of the Prowl from the Optimus Maximus we just got finished talking about. Trailbreaker, who is a repaint of the Ironhide with a new Trailbreaker head. Wheeljack, who is a repaint of Sunstreaker with a Wheeljack head. And then we've got Hound, who's kind of spoilering something else that we're going to talk about, but he's basically a repaint of Combiner Wars Swindle with a Hound head.
Right. And yes, we did say Combiner Wars Swindle.
And we will get to that, but...
No, we're doing it now!
you said that you're digging these limb guys.
I am.
I can't say, for this batch, I can't say that I do. A few of them, yeah, like, well, actually one in particular.
Well,
Smokescreen I dig. The classic Smokescreen that they came out with a few years back was kind of lacking. He really doesn't hold up, so I'll be using this opportunity to get a new Smokescreen. But everything else, honestly, I'm just not feeling it. Like, I don't know. Like, I've got a Classics Trailbreaker that's I think is better. Classics Hound has been a thing. Classics Wheeljack is a thing. Like, they're all very good. They all look fantastic, but I already have non-combining versions of these characters.
I don't know. To me, I'm looking at these and I see, well, of course, I'm coming from a bit of a different standpoint as in I have a Wheeljack, but to me, Wheeljack can never get enough love. You can't give Wheeljack too much love. So I'm down with Wheeljack. I'm very much down with Skylynx. I even liked the original Skylynx as a kid. No clue what the fuck he was even then, but just awesome. Whatever. Fuck it. And I'm seeing Autobots here that need more love. I'm seeing, Smokescreen, Hound, Trailbreaker, and I approve. I fucking approve of all of it. So, yeah, I'm very much down. And they're done well.
They are done well. They've made great, mold choices here. I would have thought Hound would have gotten more love, considering that he was the one part about Age of Extinction that everyone, was fanboying over.
Indeed. You'll have that.
But yeah, I'm down for Skylynx. What I might end up doing, me personally, is I'll probably end up getting Smokescreen, and then he'll be my spare Autobot limb, and I'll combine Smokescreen with the 3 Optimus Maximus Autobots I'm getting, plus Skylynx, and I'll just switch Optimus Nova Prime out for Skylynx whenever, I get frisky.
Gotcha.
So that might be what I do. Cause really, Optimus Prime is a full-time combiner torso. It's really not my bag. So, Skylynx will probably be the de facto torso for that team, and then maybe Optimus, steps in when things need to get serious.
Serious.
So anyway, let's talk about, Swindle. So we mentioned Swindle. Of course, he is a Combaticon. And, this was a team, the Combaticons were a team that a lot of people weren't sure were going to get a Combiner Wars release because Bruticus and the Combaticons, they were from, Fall of Cybertron. And even though the Fall of Cybertron combined Bruticus is not compatible with, Combiner Wars, it uses different technology. The thinking was that Hasbro might go, well, we already have a combining Bruticus out there, we don't need to do him again, but nope, they're doing him again.
And I love the combiner Bruticus from Fall of Cybertron, not leastly because, it was the first legitimate combiner that we'd had in years. This is just so fucking awesome.
It is. Let's go over this, piece by piece. Onslaught is a repaint of, Hotspot with a new head, and as someone who has recently picked up Hotspot, I can give a bit of insight into this. Hotspot is a really good toy. And
it fits great in your butthole.
I think he'll make a great Onslaught. What I really find absolutely amazing about this is that it's a repaint, but it's not a straight repaint. The back of Onslaught's truck mode is the front of Hotspot's truck mode. So, they're really getting creative with the repaints, and I love that. I love that we've reached the point now. Well, repaints happen because it's the nature of the toy business. You kind of have to repaint, toys to get the most value out of them. But it's no longer just a lazy straight repaint. It's like, how can we make the repaints more exciting?
Right. And that was, I know I've gone on here a few times in the past and complained about repaints. And that was why. It's like, look, I'm not going to rebuy the same fucking toy 3-4 times just because you slap a different coat of paint on it. I'm sorry, I'm not that much of a completionist. I don't look for corn in my shit. Fuck you. But the way that they've done all of these repaints for the most part, you actually have to, for me at least, maybe I'm just an idiot. Well, I mean, I know I'm an idiot, but I actually have to be told that, hey, this is a repaint of such and such.
Well,
for me to really get it.
I think it comes down to just fantastic mold work and fantastic character work and the dedication to using new head sculpts when when the situation calls for it. It creates a situation where, you see the repaint and it works so well as that character that you don't even realize it's a repaint.
Yeah, and that's what I'm down with. It's not the repaints themselves that I'm so much, that I've so much railed against in the past. It is the fact that, they're obviously repaints, and it's obviously, hey, we repainted the same toy and you're gonna fucking buy it cause you're our bitch. That kind of thing. And, I'm not against repaints in and of themselves as long as they're done well. And these are repaints done right, and I have no problem with any of this. Especially since they're using these to, give Autobots more combiners. It seems to be very well thought out. They recognize the gap that's been there. Like, hey, here's an easy fix for this. And they're doing it, and I wholeheartedly approve.
Indeed. As far as Bruticus goes, so we got Onslaught, who's a repaint of Hotspot with a new head. Vortex is actually a straight repaint of Alpha Bravo. But that doesn't bother me so much because if you look at Alpha Bravo, it almost kind of seems like it was created to be Vortex first and foremost in retrospect.
Which, if you take Alpha Bravo, which is really just a military designation for AB, you get Alabaster Bowels. I mean, surely I can't be the first person to mention this.
Oh man, alright, let's move on to Swindle, because we touched on him earlier. Swindle
comes complete with the Collector's Club credit card.
Collector's Club credit card hacking abilities. But, he's a repaint, he's a remold, actually, of the, Rook toy, who was the brand new Protectobot they added for Defensor. And so, Rook was a SWAT police vehicle. Here, it seems like they remolded the top part of it to be sort of like a buggy to kind of call back to Swindle's Jeep alternate mode. And so, yeah, I think that this is a case where it's a remold and a repaint, and I wouldn't have known if someone didn't point it out. Brawl is the star as far as the limbs go, as far as I'm concerned, because Brawl here is actually an all-new mode. A lot of people thought, a lot of speculation was that, Swindle would be a repaint of First Aid from the Protectobots, and then they'd remold, Rook into Brawl. It turns out Rook was the Swindle remold, and Brawl just got his whole new mold. He is a completely original mold for Brawl. And so I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about Brawl here, the tank?
I like it. I very much like it. Again, there's really none of these that I dislike. Mm-hmm. But Brawl, I mean, I'm a fan of tanks. And, this looks to be a pretty good, actually looks more like I don't know, a self-propelled gun than a tank. Anyways, I like it.
Well, let's get to the controversial one. So, the last member of the Combaticons is Blastoff. He transformed into a black, purple, and brown space shuttle, which always had people wondering, why is the team of army vehicles joined by a space shuttle?
See, I never asked that. I never wondered that.
Well, you're the one guy who never asked that.
Man, I grew up in the 80s. Star Wars, bitch. He's gonna shoot down the communist menace.
Combaticons, Ronald Reagan approved. But anyway, they have kept Blastoff, but they have sidestepped tradition. He is not going to be a space shuttle. Perhaps more in keeping with the military theme of the Combaticons, they have made him a repaint of Firefly, the aerial bot. So he is basically he's basically a fighter jet. He's still in Blastoff colors. So he's still got the black, he's still got the brown, he's still got the purple. One of the big, things that really has people upset, aside from the fact that they switched Blastoff out from being a space shuttle into a fighter jet, is the fact that he's a straight repaint. This is one of the rare cases where they didn't give him a new head mold, where it was probably called for. Blastoff's head mold, his head design, utilizes a faceplate. This is a straight up, slingshot, head reuse from the slingshot remold of Firefly. So it's a head design that's not very evocative of Blastoff, and that combined with the new alternate mode has a few people miffed. What are your thoughts?
Look, they've done so much with these sets of combiners. I'll give them a pass on this one. Mm-hmm. I mean, I really don't care if Blastoff is a shuttle. The name doesn't quite match as a fighter jet to me, but that's...
You can blast off as a fighter.
But it's not really a term that's used for a fighter jet. You never hear blast off with a fucking jet. You hear it with a space shuttle or a rocket or something like that. Beyond that one small minor issue, I don't have a problem with this. Mm-hmm. They've done such a good job with the other shit. I'll give them a pass on this. It's fine.
Now I do know, now another reason a lot of people were a bit peeved about it was because, the helicopter combiner wars mold they used for Alpha Bravo, they used for Vortex, and they've used for First Aid. A lot of people have said that with the right retooling, you could make that into a space shuttle. New arms that incorporate shuttle wings, a new back end, take off the rotor, and you have something that could pass as a shuttle. And I think a lot of people were kind of building up this awesome remold of this shuttle mold into a space into this helicopter mold into a space shuttle, that when it didn't happen, they were disappointed. I admit I'm one of those people who always asked, why is there a space shuttle on the Army vehicle team? So this actually works for me, but I can see where people might be peeved. It's an alternate mold, not usually associated with Blastoff. They lost out on the opportunity to see a really cool Alpha Bravo remold into a space shuttle, and it's not even using a head sculpt that is instantly recognizable as Blastoff. Again, I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it. I think it looks awesome, but I do kind of see where the outrage is perhaps coming from.
I mean, okay, NASA scrapped the space shuttle, why not Hasbro?
Yeah, now we just need a Soyuz, a transformer turns into a Soyuz.
I was gonna say, I mean, they could always do what we're doing now, just outsource it to the fucking Russians.
A Soyuz transformer would be the saddest transformer. He's held together with duct tape, vodka, and, Russian Orthodox prayers.
What we need is a blast-off based off of whatever vehicle, presumably the USS Enterprise, that North Korea used to put a dude on the sun.
Yes, we need whatever...
That should be the new blast-off.
Yes, whatever mystery vehicle Kim Jong-un blessed with his greatness to carry man to the sun, we need to make a transformer of that vehicle, because it is the future.
It was probably just like a Domino's pizza box that one of their spies got on a dumpster diving trip here in the States or in Canada or some shit.
Let's move on to the leaders. No new leader molds revealed at BotCon, but two repaints. They remolded the leader Jetfire figure into Thundercracker, and that was announced at last year's BotCon, and this year they announced that Thundercracker will be repainted into both Skywarp and Starscream.
Surprise, surprise.
Exactly, and a move everyone saw coming. The neat thing is that Starscream will be coming with his crown, which he wore in the G1 movie, and every iteration of Transformers feels the need to put him in afterwards.
Well, I mean, you know.
It is stylish.
It is, really. It really is.
So, your thoughts on Leader Class Skywarp and Starscream?
They're Seekers. They do Seeker things like Seek.
See, I'm a bit more in love with this, I think, than you are, because Geek 2 Starscream was my first Transformer, and so I love the Seekers. I've always loved the Seekers. And I look forward, like, this is 3 Leader Class toys, so that's obviously a bit on the pricey side. The Seekers are easy to collect, right, when they're all deluxes?
Right, yeah.
It's when you start knocking, you know, Leader Class price points, you know, where unless there's a sale going on, they're pretty wallet abusive.
Well, I mean, I will say it is cool to see, even though, yes, I agree, it is, you know, a bit of a financial, especially if these waves were otherwise mediocre, it'd be easy to say, okay, well, you know, I can just not get these guys and, you know, get
But it all looks so good.
Right, exactly. So there's so much good shit. This is like poverty for so many Transformers collectors. There's so much great shit here. I do think it is good though that finally the Seekers are getting a leader treatment. It's been kind of, you know, in a more classic G1 sense, which is kind of what these designs are evocative of. It is good for them to finally be getting some of that.
I'm going to, at the very least, be getting Stars.
Well, yeah. I mean, that goes without saying.
If funds permit, I'll get the other 2, but Starscream's definitely a must-have. Plus, he comes with a crown, so I feel like I'm already ahead of the game.
And you're just going to put it on your finger and wave it at your cat, aren't you?
Oh, she needs to know who's boss.
I think she already does, sir.
Yeah, that is the official Hasbro, those are the official Hasbro offerings.
You're forgetting something.
Oh. Am I?
The Titans?
Oh yes, the Titan Wars. So, I mean, I don't really know what to make of this, because they were so vague about what it was. They didn't even have any figures on display. They just had these wireframe pieces of artwork where they showed off images of figures. For those unaware, the Titan class was something that they debuted with Fall of Cybertron Metroplex, who to this day holds the record as the tallest Transformer ever made. He also comes with crap stickers.
And lots of them.
And lots of crap stickers. But they are expanding that Titan class, for something called Titan Wars, supposedly to follow up on Combiner Wars. And I'm just having trouble figuring out where to start with this, because it's all just so secretive. Basically, here's what we know. From the limited pictures Hasbro showed us, we can make out that there is a Titan-class Astro Train. And keep in mind, when we say Titan-class, we're talking these figures are probably going to be upwards to 2 feet in height.
Right.
So, the size of a small child. So, an Astro Train figure, a Fort Max, who is apparently just going to be a repaint and slight retool of Metroplex, and the shocker, a blaster.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so Astro Train is kind of out of left field because he's never really been a big guy, but I get it if, like, scale is what they're going for. Like, okay, Astro Train in the show was always like a normal sized guy, but when he transformed into Space Shuttle mode, he could carry the other Decepticons in him.
Right.
And so...
They're inside him.
And so I guess this Titan-class Astro Train is going to be an attempt to kind of represent Astro Train as being a bit on the bigger side so that he could conceivably carry people in his shuttle mode.
I guess.
I mean, it's out of left field, but I get it. Fort Max from Metroplex, I mean, that kind of just makes sense when you think about it.
It does, but I don't know. A lot of these are because admittedly they're like what you said, we haven't really seen what they're doing with them yet. Mm-hmm. This could end up just being very lazy and asking people, okay, if you're going to do a repaint of say, any other size class mold, that's a bit different, even at the leader class. Okay, so you're out, $50, $45, whatever. But we're talking, like $150 figure here. People who have Metroplex, I really don't see them wanting to plunk down that kind of money again on a Fort Max, unless there's something about it that really stands out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's also interesting because in IDW, which is the hot fiction as far as most collectors are concerned, Fort Max is in the IDW series, but he's actually not a city former. He's like a slightly taller than average guy who transforms into a tank. And that's Fort Max in the IDW universe. So you'd think if anything, if they wanted to reference IDW, which is what kind of Generations has been leaning into lately, that's the route they would take, and maybe give us a Voyager-sized Fort Max. Throwing back to the Fort Max who was a city former seems kind of weird, honestly, when you think about where the collecting fandom is right now in regards to the fiction. But it is what it is. It makes sense, you have one Autobot city former. It makes sense to repaint him into the other Autobot city former. I agree with you, Jack. That is asking a lot of collectors, to plunk down, $150 more on another huge toy. So hopefully he will have enough different about him to make, his purchase worthwhile. But, the really weird one is Blaster. And I don't get it because Blaster has always been a normal sized guy. He was the Autobot Soundwave, right? I mean, you never thought of him as being a giant guy who had to have a base mode or who was huge. Best I can tell, they're doing this just so they can give him a life-size boombox mode.
Which, that would have been great in 1989. But,
yeah, and as you were saying, if you're going to sell us, an accurately sized Blaster boombox transformer, it better work. Cause otherwise, what's the point?
Right. Yeah.
If I'm gonna carry around a Blaster who a boombox who transforms into Blaster, and the boombox is the size of an actual boombox, then it better have a radio or a tape deck in it, or else I'm just carrying around a stupid Blaster figure.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. Again, like you said, this is going to be something that we're going to have to see to kind of gauge. Mm-hmm. Unless this thing is a fucking working stereo, which even those these days are kind of going out of style, dying at the hands of MP3 players, I don't see the point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you did it in like a retro cassette player, A, it had better play real fucking cassettes, and B, it better come with like, a scratched up copy of Led Zeppelin 4. Because I don't know what the fuck else. I mean, this makes very little, if any, sense to me at all.
I'm just kind of at a loss because it is one of those things. All Hasbro did was show us these pictures of wireframe artwork and be like, by the way, this is something we're going to be doing soon. Can you tell us more? No. So, we can speculate about all of this. At the end of the day, it's just so up in the air. I don't get it, but maybe when they reveal Titan Wars Blaster, I'll be like, that totally makes sense. I mean, I doubt it, but I really can't, say it won't happen at this point.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll have to see, what they're going to do with it to determine. It's going to take, well, I mean, frankly, if I get any of these figures, I'll only be able to get one of them.
I don't have the room for Titan class shit at this point. Like, if I were to buy one.
What if you got rid of the cat?
Nah, even then, she doesn't take up much space.
Fair enough.
Surprisingly.
Do you need it? I mean, do you need your TV?
Better
yet, your toilet. Do you need your toilet? I mean, you've got like a sink and a tub, right?
They all lead to the same place.
Exactly. I mean,
So, that's Titan Wars. One last BotCon thing we're gonna touch on. The Transformers Collectors Club had their annual BotCon roundtable. And it is notable because they showed off the images
of their herpes.
They showed off the images that kind of showed where they were coming from as far as this year's BotCon exclusives, which were all very lackluster.
Of course.
But the interesting thing came when they touched on the 2015 subscription service exclusive figures. This is going to be the third subscription service they've done. Basically what that is that they say, we're going to make a bunch of exclusive figures for the Transformers Collectors Club. Join the club and subscribe.
And we won't kill your family.
It's extremely pricey, but the kick of it is that they say it's extremely pricey, but you get all these figures. And you can buy the figures individually, but they work out the price so that if you want to buy, more than 3, the pricing kind of evens out to just buying the subscription.
Now, you say it's pricey. I know you joined for, this last year. How much
I didn't join for the last... I joined the club. I haven't actually subscribed to the subscription service.
Oh, okay. Well, how much, just out of curiosity, how much is a subscription?
$40.
Not to the club, but for the figures.
No. To the club is $40.
Okay, and how much
to be a member for the club, to subscribe, and this is where it gets pricey, it's like $600.
Holy fuck shit.
Exactly.
Do they ship them with cocaine?
They better.
What the fuck?
Now,
these are second-rate figures at best.
Yes, they are. Truth be told,
hey, if any of you people from this club are listening, fuck your mother.
But the way that it works, is it's so price inhibitive that if there is a subscription service figure that you want, you're almost better off just trying to find one on the secondary market.
Yeah, for real.
It might cost you a bit. It might be as high as $150. But if it's a figure you really want, that's gonna be so much cheaper than buying the $600 subscription and getting it, plus a bunch of crap you don't want.
So now, I know, okay, so now, you paid the $40 to join the club, and that was what got you the Nova Prime that you wanted?
Yes.
Okay.
The Nova Prime had nothing to do with the subscription service. That was just the incentive figure to become a member.
Alright, okay. See, I was misunderstanding. I thought that you said that you joined the subscription service to get okay, alright, I got you.
No, I don't have $600 to blow on.
Well, see, I didn't know it cost that much. I was thinking maybe like a couple hundred at most.
No.
Because, I mean, I see, okay, I was judging what I thought the price should be on the quality of the figures that I see them putting out.
Well, let's talk
Which isn't that great.
Let's talk about this year's, club exclusives.
Wallet Rapatron.
So, the BotCon exclusives, I don't even think we covered them, or I can't even remember if we covered them on the show. They were lackluster. But the upcoming exclusives, there's a couple Transformers G.I. Joe crossover figures. There's a Cobra Commander figure, from G.I. Joe done up as Cobra Commander's appearance from season 3 of the Transformers cartoon. where he's got the bitchin' trench coat and the hat. They've also repainted Transformers Prime Soundwave as a Cobra Bat soldier, which is esoteric, but it works. They have a Marissa Fairborn figure. Marissa Fairborn is actually the daughter of G.I. Joe character Flint. She is also a human ally of the Autobots in a lot of Transformers fiction. So they gave her a G.I. Joe-sized figure. That's as far as the G.I. Joe crossover stuff goes. Any of that interest you? I know you're not a big G.I. Joe guy. I'm not really either, but I figured we'd go over it for completion's sake.
Meh.
Yeah, kind of my feelings as well. Let's get into the straight-up Transformers stuff. So the TFCC incentive figure for this year is going to be a repaint of the Deluxe Armada Generations Starscream mold. He's done as Ramjet. This is based off of the Universe Ramjet deco from 2003. What are you thinking of him?
It's alright.
And then the club exclusive number 1, this is going to be the one, this is the one that they always pair with the incentive figure, is going to be a repaint of Ramjet, and it's Skywarp. So we're basically getting Armada Skywarp from Armada Starscream, and that's cool to see. But let's talk about the Transformer. Oh, and we're also getting G.I. Joe-sized human figures for Rodimus Prime and RC from that one episode where they got stuck in human bodies, because why the fuck not? But let's move on to the Transformer stuff. So, we've got, first up, Decepticon Windsweeper. Windsweeper was a late G1 TriggerCon, and he is a repaint of Combiner Wars Generations Skydive. I gotta admit, I'm feeling no love here. This is one of those late G1 generic Decepticons who nobody remembers the name of. You know the ones I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is, like, I understand that the club is in a position where they can't make overly popular characters because Hasbro's already got plans for them. So they can't say, oh, we want to do a popular character from the IDW books, because Hasbro's like, we're already doing that, so back off. So they've got to kind of dip into the B and C tier of characters, but Windsweeper, he's kind of Z tier. I mean,
Windsweeper's one that, like, if I really cared enough, I'd look up to see what the fuck he actually looked like. He's one of those, like, who, what?
He's one of the characters who exists only so that comic book artists have, like, cannon fodder to draw in crowd scenes.
Like Reflector?
Hey, don't. Reflector is awesome. Okay, he's a camera. I mean, that's awesome. Alrighty. Moving on. Decepticon Ruckus. He is a repaint of the Stunticon Off-Road from the Combiner Wars Menasor set. Interestingly enough, Ruckus, another one of those late G1 Decepticons. This one's interesting though, because Off-Road was originally designed as Ruckus, and then they decided to make him an all-new character, so they just made him Off-Road. But he was originally intended to be Ruckus, so this is one of those ideas that kind of boomeranged back around. It's not enough for me to want the figure, by any stretch of the imagination, but I at least like the reasoning behind it.
I get that. I don't know. This kind of thing, like, I don't know. I just don't get really as excited about these.
Well, we've also got Alpha Bravo into Spinister, who is the 3 Shades of Purple Decepticon helicopter. So, if anyone ever wanted Purple Vortex, this is your chance.
Yay!
And, Generations Firefly, from the Combiner Wars Superion set, is going to be made into Decepticon Needlenose, again, another, lower tier Decepticon character, being used as the basis for a repaint. The interesting one here, and the one that really has me doing a double take, is they're going to take the, Combiner Wars Generations Onslaught toy, and they are going to repaint him into Bludgeon, who is the skull-headed, samurai-themed Decepticon tank from G1. And that
could be kind of cool.
And that's one where I kind of go, huh. Because it's not obvious, but once you look at it, it kind of makes sense. From what I can tell, it looks like you will be getting a new skull-themed head. They kind of have to if they're going to do Bludgeon. And, these pictures from the slideshow aren't exactly showing us the clearest picture of the new head. I don't know if it's any good, but if the head sculpt is on point, this could be an interesting one. Now, again, this subscription service is ungodly expensive, and so even as interesting as it is, Onslaught into Bludgeon isn't going to be enough to get me to plunk down for it, especially compared to all the uninspired garbage that's coming along with it. But Bludgeon might be one of those ones that I decide, you know what, if I have the cash to swing it, I might, hunt him down on the aftermarket.
Like, I don't know. This type of quote-unquote service seems to me it's at its full value, it is for the collector who has more money than brains,
yes,
and wants to have shit that they can say, almost no one else has this.
I'll tell you, it's for the hardcore collectors, like, it's for the people who see Generation Spinister and go, we must have it. Like, Hasbro's never gonna make Spinister because no one gives a shit about Spinister, right? But there is that hardcore subset of fan who wants Generation Spinister just because he existed, right? And they need to get all the guys who existed.
Right.
And so this is for the people who really want that. And that's kind of why I don't get too upset about the price, because it's like, well, I'm not gonna pay it, but I know there are people out there who will pay it, and I guess that's who the service is for. And good on FunPub. If Fun Publications, who run the Collectors Club, if they can get enough people to put down, up to $600 for, this subscription service consisting of Z-tier Decepticons, then power to them. If they're able to get that money out of them, good on them.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, even at the one-off level, for me, this seems like the kind of thing, like, if there's a particular character in the fiction that for whatever reason you have this really strong affinity for, some obscure character, and they do a version of it, okay, maybe I could see, trying to buy them off of eBay or something like that. I can't think of a single character, not even Rekgar, which would be probably the most obscure character that I like, and even he's not what I'd call obscure. I can't think of any that I would be willing to pay, $150, $200 for a one-off for on fucking eBay or Amazon or some shit. Mm-hmm. No, I'm sorry, fuck that.
It's definitely it's definitely a very niche market, which is why, in a lot of ways, the character choices are so obscure, because they're obscure for the people who want to pay for the obscure characters. And as far as that goes, I'm fine with it, because, there are people who are going to pay it, and they'll pay it, and they will, I guess, be happy with their purchase. If you have $600 to blow on toys, then I envy you. But, yeah, it's for them, so enjoy, but I'll be sitting this one out. I'll maybe take a peek at that Onslaught into Bludgeon if I can find a decently priced one somewhere, but yeah, I'm not going through the club for it.
Yeah, fuck that shit. Was there anything else that we needed to go over?
No, not really. That was it for BotCon 2015.
Alrighty then. I guess that more or less wraps it up for episode 58, unless there was something else we needed to go over.
No, that's about it for me.
We have gone over the BotCon, we've gone over the WoW, and we've put the uptight douchebags of the world on notice. I say this pretty much does it up for us.
Indeed, and you can catch us putting the uptight douchebags of the world on notice, on Spreaker, on Stitcher, on YouTube, and on iTunes. And you can catch us at basicallyasportshow.com. You can send us an email, or your hate mail after this episode, at basicallyageekshow@gmail.com. And of course, we are on the Twit books at A Geek Show. So, for Jack, this is Mike, signing off from episode 58.
Good night, everybody.